Welcome to Wrap It Up Sports Medicine and More, the podcast that gives you a viewpoint on sports medicine that can't be found anywhere else. I'm your host, Eli Hallak, and we have a fantastic show ahead of us today. So let's get started. Today we have Brian Gallagher. How are you doing today, Brian?
Good, thanks. Thanks for having me, Eli.
Oh, thanks for being here. We appreciate it. Julie Rudy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Eli?
Great to see you again.
You too.
And then co-hosting today with us again is Joel Doerning. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good. Always a pleasure to be doing this.
Yeah, it's fun, isn't it?
It is.
So we have a few colleagues on today, and we're taking a new topic. We're talking about a transition phase that athletic trainers sometimes go through when we change locations or change positions. But in this case, we're going to talk about the misconception of stepping down from the collegiate setting to the high school setting. What is it like to take a position where you're not just going from, say, a clinical setting to a teaching setting, but from one school to another and the quote unquote step down to the high school level? I heard that this morning, actually, from a colleague of mine. We were talking about this beforehand, and both Brian and Julie, if you can give us a little background on where you were before the high school setting. Julie, ladies first, please, if you could.
Well, I was at a Division II college for 17 years up at Sonoma State University and went up there for grad school. I was lucky enough to get the assistant position with my colleagues and then eventually earned that head position and stayed there for quite a while. And then recently, just about a year ago now, I moved over to a high school in the area.
And I liked how you said moved over to a high school. We'll talk about that.
Yeah. So funny story. When I was switching the jobs, I had someone say, well, what are you going to do now? And like, aren't you going to regret leaving? And I was like, what do you mean? I've been at that position for 17 years. It's been fulfilling. It's, I've done it for 17 years. I'm trying something else that was put in my path to try, which is a different story. But it was interesting. Like right off, it's funny that you mentioned that. Like right off, somebody said that to me.
Yep. Stepping down to the high school level. Gotta love that. And
Yeah.
Brian, what about you, buddy?
I'm originally from the East Coast. I went to grad school at the University of Connecticut. I did my undergrad at Westchester University outside of Philadelphia. After grad school, I worked at UConn, worked at Toledo, Maryland, and Stanford, bouncing around a total of 15 years in college football. And then I took the position of a private school in the Los Angeles area. And I think that everyone who says that going from college to a high school is a step down is not familiar with the profession of athletic training and the responsibilities that go in line with that, because it's very clear, and that is not the case at all. It's just different.
You know what? And that's so true. I know Joel and I, we've spent most of our career in the high school, secondary school, whatever you want to call it, setting. And yeah, let's get going there. I mean, honestly, truthfully, what in your experience, so Brian, we'll start with you, bouncing around 15 years to some major universities, backing, the big football programs and taking care of those D1 student athletes. What was your mindset when you went from the college setting to the high school setting right off the bat?
Number one, it was location. My wife and I wanted to move down to Southern California, the Los Angeles or Orange County area specifically. Number two, I knew I wanted to change in setting. I had kind of done college football for 15 years, and it was always, the highs were high, the lows were low. But it seemed like it was getting more, the number of lows was, the lows were staying low and the highs weren't as high anymore. Yeah, I just needed a change. It was just, the day in, day out, being on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It was a little bit different. And the position I took in the Los Angeles area kind of fell into my lap, and I explored it, and it just seemed like the right fit at the right time for me.
Yeah, because at the high school level, we're never on call. I mean, once that, what is it, 3:30 school ends at most places, we're off the clock, right? That's how it works.
And as soon as you walk out on a Friday, whether it's after a football game, yeah, you don't get bothered. No
Yeah,
one
not
reaches
at
out to you
all.
over the weekend. Yeah, that was a rude awakening. Week one in the summer. So yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. It's different. The number of issues, the number of problems, the number of it stays the same regardless of the setting. They're just different ones.
For those of you, both listeners that are listening right now, that was sarcasm, I promise. We're both all on screen laughing a little bit because yeah, it doesn't happen that way. Oh my gosh. It's hard to say what's more deafening on the weekends, the texts, the emails, or the phone
Oh,
calls. It
yeah.
really is.
Or the look
Yeah.
you get from your spouse when they hear your phone go off.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I'm not going to comment on that because there's always a chance my spouse might listen to this. Although we're several episodes in, and I would bet the under on how many she's listened to, but that's a different story. Julie, how about you? What was the mindset going from your university to the high school setting?
A lot of exploration, a lot of like, I'd done interviews in different states, exploring like what the next step was. Was it administration in a hospital? Was it, working at a high school in a different place or another university? I think there were a lot of changes going through COVID, and we had a staff of 5 for 250-ish student athletes going into COVID. We managed through it, and coming out, we did great. We stuck together, and then we started losing staff because the pay was not where it should be. As little as asking for, just a little bit here and there to keep somebody at the place, astounding athletic trainers. And so I had a hard time fighting to keep athletic trainers on my staff and talking athletic trainers to come in and, get paid this amount. And it dwindled down to where there were 2 of us at one point. And so then
Oh,
we,
wow.
yeah,
From 5 to 2 on staff, that must have been hard.
5 to 2. Yeah. The fantastic athletic trainers that I was working with definitely want to help them get to where they need to go. And then there was a opportunity of a volunteer separation. The university said, hey, if you've been working here for over a certain amount of time, you might be able to get this severance and have a volunteer separation. I was like, well, my colleague decided to take it 2 days before it was due. I was like, well, maybe we should look into that and see what that looks like. No joke, the same week, I was like talking to my husband. I was like, hey, so we just moved to this house like 6 months ago. There's this fantastic high school down the road that our kids are going to go to. How cool would it be if there were a great paying job right down there and I could just walk to work? And lo and behold, that week, this job posted at being paid 35% more than I was being paid at a university. So that's a factor, right? Being able to support my family.
Definitely,
The
definitely.
location factor was key. Part of me, I was at a university that didn't have football. So I didn't have that through those 17 years, but I had a lot of other sports. And, getting back to high school football, which Eli, I worked a lot with you. You were one of my
Yeah,
instructors. So
that was fun
going,
back in the day.
yeah, right. Seeing that, and I was like, yeah, I'd like to see that again. And that was a joyful time in my life. And went and talked to some people and did the interviews and talked to them about family time, about my big boundaries, honestly, that I taught a lot of the athletic trainers that I worked for in the university was your days off are your days off. Turn your phone off. Don't let me call you. Don't let, so I was very hard on those boundaries. And going into the high school I was working at, I wanted those boundaries and I wanted days off. And I wanted an administration that understood what I did and allowed me to do my job. All those things were mostly there at the high school I decided to step into. Walked in with open arms. The football parents were amazing. They just were like, we're so glad you're here. We appreciate what you do. We know what you do. And there wasn't, you're going to have the 5% of parents who you have to educate a ton, but it was a huge deciding factor of knowing like how welcome and getting that pay bump. Honestly, that was a great thing. So,
Yeah, getting paid what you're worth is a huge thing that we don't see in our profession all too often. I know I just had this conversation with a local basketball coach that wanted to hire me for $30 an hour. And after I finished laughing internally, I'm like, that I could get paid almost that working at McDonald's.
almost.
Well, yeah, California, good point. I sat there going, do you have any idea our value? how we decrease liability, how we increase productivity of your athletes. And then she just looked at me, well, can I hire a student instead? Do you have a student? And I kind of chuckled, and I did the very polite and respectable comment of, I couldn't ever do that ethically or legally. I could not give a student position or recommend a student position if they're not certified or licensed. That would be unethical of me. And she really had no idea what to say. The funny thing was, she walked into this literally just a conversation. I thought I was going to help her find somebody, and she thought I was hired. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I've been at the same place 26 years. You ain't hiring me away for a basketball league tournament thing. No, that ain't happening. Anyway, yeah, value. And I know, Joel, we've discussed this many times over the last couple of years, is schools, how they over time start to value us, right? Let's get into some more questions here. What about you?
Can I
brought
add
up
something to your value?
God,
I actually have a
please do.
great story
Yes,
going
please,
into it,
shoot.
value coming from, in a couple of those stories, I'll tell her like kind of like the worst I experienced or the best I experienced. But working at university, there were times I was so sick that I couldn't leave the bathroom, and I was reprimanded for not answering my phone. It was like, why weren't you available? I was like, well, I couldn't. To where, then I'm walking into this tournament that I worked with our coach on to cover. And I said, okay, here are the services I have to provide. And I quoted him, and this was just recently, a very high level wrestling tournament. And I said, here's what my hourly rate is, but this is what you get with that. And I line item to every single little thing. They come back and they go, I'm not paying for that. That I'm not paying that. And I said, okay, well, what do you want to pay? And they initially said $250 for the whole day. And I said, well, no, but we'll do the going rate
Excuse me.
at that point, I said, for this amount, it was a decent rate and appropriate rate for this area. I said, I will give you first aid and emergency services only. That's okay, no problem. Like, I'll take it. Okay, no problem. First day I walked in, I said, okay, so what are the instructions that you want to give me to talk to the parents of when I'm not taping them, when I'm not counseling on injury, when I am not giving additional guidance past first aid and emergency services?
And how did that go over?
And I love this coach. Let me tell you first, but it was such a great evolution of the conversation. And then initially there were like 2 or 3 things. I said, hey, coach, you want me to solve that for you? Yeah, would you please? I'm super busy. No problem. I've got you. Like, I'm going to get you taken care of. I was like, would you like me to show you? Like, can I just take care of you? He goes, yeah, bill me. I said, no problem. And I'm doing what I do. We do what we do as athletic trainers, of talking to parents, of
Amen to that.
talking with the kids, of being on the mat when we need to be on the mat, of watching. And he goes, well, it's pretty easy, and this coach is pretty easy. You're just sitting back watching, right? And I said, what? Let me explain to you what I'm watching. We laugh as athletic trainers, but in my head, I was like, oh, this is an opportunity. I said, okay, well, let me tell you what I'm watching. I said, I have 4 mats in here. I have 2 mats in the other room, and I'm ready to go anywhere at any time and do what's needed at that moment. I'm not ever stopping watching, doing, listening the whole time. He says, okay. And so then after the fact, I line itemed exactly what I did during the tournament, from eye exams to concussion exams to on the mat emergency first aid to supplying supplies that they'd never seen before. It's different nose plugs. Actually, Eli, you may have showed me these nose plugs, the foam nose plugs that expand versus just the plugs. Anyhow, so I line item that, and we had a great conversation after, and he goes, and I did some things of, it was a fundraiser and it was a local school. So I gave some discounts, and I said, this is just my worth and this is my value. And he goes, okay, well, guess this is the cost of doing business. I was like, thank you. I appreciate that. Like, thank you.
That is a wonderful story. But the comment at the end is what the coach I dealt with last week, or this actually was this week, wasn't it, Joel?
Yeah, just Monday.
They don't understand the cost of business.
No.
They don't see the big picture. Now, you're in a unique situation currently. Correct me if I'm wrong. There was no athletic trainer before you. Is that correct, Julie?
For a few years.
For a
So a
few
lot of my
years.
seniors going through football had an athletic trainer prior. The parents who were senior parents had that experience, and they were actually working really hard on telling the people under. But my freshman parents and everybody coming in have have some time to understand what I can actually provide and the services I provide.
Right.
So it's an interesting situation.
Brian, in contrast,
Mhm.
we worked, I wouldn't say side by side, but a few miles away from each other for several years.
You were
And
definitely guiding me through and a shoulder to cry on during those years. So.
well, I appreciate that. It was fun times. You stepped into a completely different scenario. They had a pretty functional athletic training facility, athletic trainers on staff full time for further back than I've been at my current institution, and that's 26 years.
Mhm.
So you were walking into a different setting. What was it like for you, that transition and coming in and them understanding your value versus Julie having to educate so much?
The fortunate part about the position that I took was they approached me because they were getting a new facility, a new athletic training room. And the reason I kind of I said it fell into my lap was because they were touring facilities up at Stanford when I was working there. And I had shaken hands with them, and then a couple of months later, a call came across my desk that I had heard that they were looking to hire a new head athletic trainer and that they wanted to employ more of like a collegiate model. So I reached out to them, talked to them a little bit about what that model looked like, and they liked it. I liked it. Told them there were certain things that I would want to do from an equipment and supply standpoint, which they were open to. Once again, kind of going back to our initial part of the conversation, I too took an increase in salary going from a college football program to a high school setting. So once again, there's another argument that it is not a step down; it is a step over.
And that's kind of a huge surprise to a lot of people when they find
Yeah.
out at the high school level, yeah, we might be making a little more than that collegiate athletic trainer.
Yes, and it surprised me as well. I mean, to be honest with you, the college, Stanford, said that we can't match that offer. So I said, okay, goodbye.
That
So
does help make it easy, doesn't it?
yeah, and I went down to Southern California. I was fortunate that the athletic trainers that were there, with the exception of the head athletic trainer who was moving on, the assistant athletic trainers were fantastic. And I talked to them prior to my arrival about, kind of what they liked about their previous situation and some of the changes that I was thinking about implementing, and they were on board. They were great to work with. I could not have asked for better staff to work with. We really, really had a singular vision and focus in terms of progressing the sports medicine program there. We had some back and forth because the person who was the head athletic trainer previously moved into a different role at the school. So sometimes he would sort of, I don't want to say like step on toes, but was trying to venture back into his previous territory.
Would insert his clinical
Correct.
opinions. Yeah.
Which we gracefully did not follow, because there was a reason they were looking for a different person in that position. So, but I mean, we ended up having a good working relationship. We had to work together on some aspects from an entire school population as a whole, but from a sports and athletics focus, no, that was our ship. That was our baby to kind of grow and nurture as a staff, and I think we did a really good job of that. The staff that I worked with deserves all the credit in the world for that, because without them, it couldn't happen. We were all on the same page.
And a definite shout out to your former staff, who I know several of, great people.
Awesome.
Awesome. You really walked into a good structured location that had a workforce with you, which I'm going to get probably slapped by several colleagues and friends that are at high schools who can't say we have a staff.
Yeah, that's true.
We're very fortunate. Julie's nodding. Julie, please tell me about your staff at your current location.
Are we talking about athletic training, coach? Well, there's just me. I do have a colleague who she's teaching the sports medicine class. So it's really nice to have her perspective of the high school kind of working there.
Now, what's her background? because we know a lot of the times the teachers that are teaching some type of CTE, ROP course
She is
aren't
actually the
always.
original athletic trainer that was there. She started
Yeah.
the program when they first had like 0. So she went through the trenches there of building the program, and then she went over to teaching. Every night, what we've kind of started is having students observe, and we're trying to kind of like see where that goes. So she has an athletic training and a sports medicine class, but she actually does have a background in athletic training, which is fantastic. Right?
Very cool. Very cool.
We actually have 5 total athletic trainers in our district. And so I lean on them a lot for input, advice, things of, hey, is this normal here? Is this how we operate? What do we need? Just to get the norm, a year in, I did a lot of watching and listening of what, and then I'm kind of building what I want to happen. That is my current stuff. And I have a great colleague, Shyla. Oh my gosh, I just adore her. She spent a decade in high schools in Southern California. She's, I go lunch with her every now and then, and I say, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And while, I have the years of experience that I do, I still want to get input for the level I'm at. But yeah, that's me for now. The facility isn't horrible. It's cute.
It's quaint. It's cute. It works.
I'm
There you go.
appreciative. I walked in, I'm like, you know what? I see what you did here. I see what you're trying to do. I appreciate that. Thank you. Now let's build on it, because my room is just stockpiled every day. And I was talking to my athletic director. I was like, yeah, I need like 1,000 square feet. He goes, what? I was like, have you seen my room after school? Like, I have power hour right after school, and we are rocking and rolling.
Hour. Oh my
And
God.
if I had more space, I can get people going. So I'm used to working with lower staff and stuff. But yeah, it's me. I have ideas. I have things I want to do, and how I want to, I'm teaching freshmen to grab water. I'm teaching, there's things that while you don't have all the resources of extra sets of hands, I try to find other ways. Yeah.
You have to overcome and adapt in our profession, right? Otherwise,
and
people don't get taken care of.
From Division II. I loved that space, because the resources were what you made it. And if you need to find resources, you need to find resources. I love Division I too. Dabbled in that a little bit of, you have some great resources to learn from. So yeah, it's fun. All the different levels are fun.
What would you guys say the biggest transition? I mean, obviously you're going from collegiate athletes to high school athletes, but I think what gets lost in that too is the transition of also dealing with the parents at the high school level.
Maybe I was dealing with a lot of parents at the end of my college career. Let me tell you, after
Oh, wow. Well, let's hear from Brian. And then
Brian
I want to hear that comment from Julie just expanded on.
Everything from a college football standpoint for the universities that I worked at, everything was pretty much in-house. I very rarely dealt with the parents other than, informing them that their kid was hurt and going to have surgery, but here's the surgery, here's the time of the surgery, here's where it's going to be, stuff like that. It was very much cordial. And then the high school level, yeah, that was another period of adjustment. Every parent has a buddy or a relative that's an expert that knows more than you. Yeah, it was a different world. And I would say one of the biggest transitions was just the control aspect. On the college level, you knew when the doctor appointments were, you knew which doctor they were going to, you basically knew what the doctor was going to say. Whereas at the high school level, when they leave campus, you don't know what's going on until they come back in. And sometimes they tell you they saw a doctor or a chiropractor or a massage therapist or a midwife that saw them and offered their advice. The midwife thing actually did happen. That is not an exaggeration.
Wow.
So,
okay.
Yeah,
that's a first for me.
Yeah. Did they give birth on the sideline and want to come back?
No,
into the game?
that's literally, that was my answer. I said, I'll call you when and if they're ready to give birth, but this is a boys basketball player. So yeah, I don't think your expertise is needed at this time.
Interesting. Yeah, you got to love that.
So yeah, the parent aspect was challenging was certainly more challenging to navigate on the high school level for me than it was on the collegiate level.
Julie, please tell us what it's like.
I don't know if I call it control. I mean, yes, you do have control over it, but it's continuity of care. We had complete rule of continuity of care for the student athlete. We knew who they were seeing and could get them to where they needed to go, and knew every step, and could spend 2 hours a day with them on rehab. Some athletes coming in believing that they're very high level, and the parents took involvement when it came to injuries that they felt should go to a Southern California hospital because this physician worked on the Dodgers, and this and that, how they wanted, this needs to be a true red shirt and that was misdiagnosed and I work in insurance. And so there started to be more of those conversations, which just understanding the shift of, okay, maybe I am dealing more with parents now and learning how to communicate with them. And I knew that was going to be a shift in high school. I knew like, okay, one of the first things I need to come in and do is listen to parents, listen to coaches, listen to the athlete, what is needed. I am continuing to spend a ton of time introducing myself to parents, sending messages at the beginning of season. Here's who I am, what I do, where you can find me. Here's my role. And then as I'm learning, lots of healthcare providers in the stands, which is fantastic. I had an ER doc that came down and offered a set of hands when I had an opposing player who had broken his back. Like, okay, thank you. Extra set of hands there. That's in a situation they didn't try to step in, but I've had other situations where I had a parent who worked in a medical field, took the splint off their child's hand that they had a broken hand, and then proceeded to press down on it. And I was like, he needs to be sent now. You need to take him to the hospital. And that was frustrating because they felt they knew more and they told everybody that they knew more than me. While I knew that was coming up with the parents, I tried to make my plan with dealing with them. But what I kind of figured was, well, I'm already working with a lot of parents in the college now, and a lot of the maturity levels of the athletes coming in as freshmen, maybe because of COVID, maybe just change of what have you, their mental preparedness for college was not that really there. It took 2-3 years to really get prepared for college. So, yeah.
That's very interesting. I mean, I could really see how, especially the COVID years, we all as clinicians dealt with that, and it created some very unique challenges, to say the least. Definitely what you just said about the maturity level of some of these young men, young women as they grew through that, I think was stunted because of that full year where mom and dad were overseeing everything. I believe they had a problem letting go. It really solidified they didn't want to let go.
Yeah.
And so I totally believe that. That's kind of crazy though. You don't think about that at the collegiate level. You just think about it at the high school level.
Mhm.
Yeah. And, maybe it's more of a Division II. And I had other colleagues that were much more firm. It's like, no, you need to stay in the stands. Parents, I was, maybe to my fault, I was a little more open to conversations, trying to, bridge the pathways.
That's very kind of you. I don't know if that's ever been said about me. So,
No, don't. You taught me a ton of boundaries, Eli. Lots of boundaries. Can't say that a lot of people thought some of my decisions were kind.
All right. Well, okay. So I
Just
had a
don't want that to be
positive.
the first introduction to the parent. You want
Yeah.
them to at least know that ahead of time.
Yep. Yep. What have been some of the biggest rewards transitioning from the collegiate setting to the high school setting as far as clinical, personal? What has been the biggest rewards of that transition? Brian, if you don't mind.
I think the relationships, as Julie sort of mentioned, was you're watching them grow and mature. I still keep tabs on some of the athletes that, I worked with on a high school level, and kind of look for them on the college level and or the professional level and see how they're doing. And there's a lot of good memories, The relationships with some of the coaches were probably more friendly on the high school level than they were on the collegiate level, where it was, mostly strictly professional. Like I mentioned before, the staff that I worked with on the high school level, I will never, a bad word will never come out of my mouth about them because of how close we grew. And if one of us had a good day, we all had a good day. If one of us had a bad day, we all kind of took it on the chin. It was definitely more collaborative, more of a team effort. Yeah, the relationships that you form with some of the kids and some of the parents that, see what you do, they appreciate what you do. Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned from the collegiate level, what made me go to the high school level was that the lows were low and the highs weren't as high, but you had some pretty good highs on the high school level, and the lows were still low, but man, those highs, you love to see people do well, and staff included, coaches included, athletes included. So yeah, the people was the most rewarding aspect for me.
Yeah. How about you, Julie?
I think on a personal, I have weekends, I have days off. You know, there's something to say about truly getting a couple months off during the summer to just get set for the next year. And then I get to personally, I focus on just some other things that I've wanted to do. Like I've wanted to start maybe my own private clinic. People who call me who've known me through the years, hey, can you still help me? Yeah, well, opening up that avenue too, even starting my own business. Clinically, gosh, yep, the relationships as the parents see you and say thank you. I had a parent the other day as I'm talking to their oldest of 4 sons, and the dad looks at me, he just goes, you know, thanks for being just the angel watching over my kids. You took time out of your day to go and ask him why he was limping. Like, thank you. It is great to know as a parent that there's somebody there to do that when we're not around. And then just the celebration is absolutely great. Gosh, you can be losing a football, and this happened in playoffs. We were losing really bad, but then the last play was just this greatest play of the backup quarterback just tossing the ball and pouring down rain, and he makes it, you know, they catch the ball and they make the touchdown, and everybody's celebrating. It's like that is just so pure and wholesome and like great, and you can just celebrate with them in those pieces. I'm working on getting the staff piece so we can all work on that together. But yeah, you know, working with those coaches that, you know, I have a coach has his degree in biomechanics and nobody understands what that means either, but he and I speak the same language, and it's great because everybody sees him as this hard guy, but if I give him data, he understands what I'm trying to do with the athletes. Building those relationships and getting the trust. And the other piece with the kids is that I continue to have conversations with them, and I had a couple of them go, the parents told me, they go, yeah, they wanted to see you to see what you had to say before they went anywhere else. So if that's what they want, that's fine. I was like, really? And I had one other kid go, yeah, I want to know what you had to say first. And I'm like, okay, well, but your parents are your parents. You know, if they want you to get care, like we need to get you care. But I wanted to see what you said. I was like, oh, thank you.
That's
Thank
fantastic.
you.
That's
That
great.
that's when you
awesome.
know you're starting to make those connections where they trust you a lot, when they want to come to you
Yeah.
first and get your opinion.
I had a track girl just yesterday. She goes, you validated my pain. And I'm like, what? And she goes, you validated what I was feeling because I'm running, you know, getting through my workouts and I'm trying to just ignore the pain, but you actually gave me something that helps fix it almost immediately. I was like, well, I'm glad. Like, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to educate you all, and I'm here to teach you all those things. And it was just so sweet. She was just, thank you. Thank you. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh,
And going over to
not going
Brian,
anywhere.
going to Brian's comment earlier, that's a good day right there. You get a
That's a
comment like
good
that.
day.
Oh,
That's a good day.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, I'm not, you know, the other thing, you're not waking up at night stressing about 5 other things that can happen the next day or what you're going to walk into the next day. It's like, I kind of know what I'm walking into the next day. Schedules may change, but it's been pretty consistent.
Schedules may change.
Well,
Wait a minute.
maybe that was the biggest, no, I mean, a lot of schedule changing. Maybe that was the biggest eye opener for me. I've had to learn to go with the flow with those schedule changes and like, okay, well, maybe I'm just going to be in a central location today.
Yep.
All hands
Yep.
on deck.
All hands on, exactly. All hands on deck. And wait, check the calendar again, but we checked it 30 minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, doesn't matter. Check again. Elevate your knowledge, ignite your curiosity, and compete with the best minds at events hosted by the American Academic Competition Institute. AACI's sports medicine competitions feature practical exercises, challenging quizzes, specialty tests, and keynote speakers that foster knowledge and social engagement in healthcare and sports medicine. Go to aacitest.org for more information on upcoming regional and national competitions. Sign up for the ultimate intellectual showdown.
Julie, you kind of mentioned being able to recharge.
Mm-hmm.
How have you found the transition from, you know, the collegiate level to the high school level being a better situation for you and your family to have that family balance?
I can shut it off far easier. Everybody's shutting it off. I'm not going to get a call on a Sunday. My athletic director is like, I need to go do this for the family. Yeah, no problem. See you later. Sounds great. No, like, are you sure? I mean, we have this stuff going on. I don't have people comparing my kids to their puppies.
Wow.
Like, thank you. I appreciate you're trying to connect, but my child is not an animal. I have
Puppies?
4 dogs. I've had puppies.
Puppies.
Nothing.
Okay.
Nothing the same. It's just that understanding of family. It's benefited my family because I have people who understand my family, who welcome my kids running around. First day I was like, is it okay? Is it okay if I bring my kids to work? I've got to get them out early. And they look at me like I'm crazy. It's like, oh no, it's not. And they're like, what? Why are you even asking me? Do we like kids here? It's a high school. We love kids. I was like, okay, cool. Just no question of having family around, letting them just check it out. And then that makes me going home easier, because then the family time is, I can recharge with that. We can go on trips during the summer and nobody's questioning me why I'm taking 2 weeks off. I don't think I took a vacation at the university level. When did I get married? 2012. When did I start? 2006. Yeah, long time. I didn't take a vacation until I got married. So.
What about you, Brian?
When I was working on the high school level, I didn't turn off my phone. I almost think it's just part of a me issue more than the job setting. Because even in my current position, I don't know. I don't like surprises, so I'd rather know what I'm walking into the next day than walk in and someone say like, "Oh, this happened yesterday." Like, why didn't you tell me about it yesterday? Then we can fix it together. I don't know. My wife wants me to stop doing that. But
Yeah,
I
we
do.
might have to
I
edit
agree
this
with your
out.
wife.
We might have to edit this out because both your wife and my wife might agree on that comment. So Julie, we
Yeah.
might have to talk to our producer about editing this little portion
Uh-huh.
out. Yeah.
No, but that's
Or we could just edit Julie out. And
Yeah, well, hey, there's a good idea. We might have to on that
One
one.
way to save yourself there.
No offense,
I
Jules.
told you some of the
Love ya,
decisions I make are not popular. A lot of times in the
Yeah.
athletic training.
but-
Yeah, you got to just turn it off, guys.
I
Like, you
can't
got to
do
set
it.
boundaries. College, high school, any setting, you got to set those boundaries.
Something's happening on the back.
there's always something,
it's,
damn it.
it's still
There's
going to be
always
there the
something.
next day.
That's our fear, right, Brian? That's our fear.
That's
It's going to be there
that's
the
our
next
fear.
day. I need to deal with it now.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
You're not going to be any less of a hero on Monday than on Sunday.
That's true. That's
Well,
true.
aren't we usually the villain though, in most cases, unfortunately?
Always.
But sometimes I think we answer the call because there is that, well, I've got to be there for them. I'm there for them. That is, I am this role for them. That's what I
Just
felt.
like you got to make sure you don't put more effort than they put in.
Yeah.
We might
It's healthy.
we might have to put that one on our the wall in the facility, Joel. You need to
I
put
like
more
that.
effort in than us. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good
idea.
one. We can't want it more than they do.
Yep.
So what kind of advice would you give to other athletic trainers who are considering making a transition, Julie, from the collegiate setting to the high school setting? What would you tell them?
This would maybe be for any position. Make sure it's the right fit for you. Division I is going to be a great setting for some people. And it goes to support that conversation of it's not a step down. For me, my family, it was a great fit. And it continues to be a great fit.
It was more of a step up for you then, in
A lot of
reality.
aspects of my life. Yeah. And I get to prepare these kids for where I've already been, and I've seen where they want to go. I've seen what they want to do. And I tell them, like, well, let me prep you for that. I don't want any kid going from my high school injured into a college setting. I want to educate you and prep you for college if that's what you want to do. But along the lines of advice, the fit thing, it's not a step down. There's so many enjoyable things. I would say really build your base of communication with the community partners, the institutional partners, and the parents. Really start a ton of communication and outreach. It's going to take a lot of work, and it does. And I get looked at sideways from some of my colleagues like, what, how many messages and how many meetings are you going to meet parents? They need to see me.
Oh,
They
yes.
I do not want the first phone call to be from this lady at the school that's taking care of their kid all of a sudden, it's got to be smoother than that. So communication would be probably be my other one. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt about any of that. How about you, Brian?
To echo what Julie was saying, personal fit, professional fit, every person that you talk to about making the change will have an opinion. So make sure you only listen to those whose opinion you value and whose opinion you care about.
That's a great comment right there.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter what everyone's going to offer their opinion, whether you ask it or not. The vast majority of them don't matter. Just the people that you truly care about. Reach out to someone that's in that position. I reached out to you, Eli, before I took the position. I don't even know if you remember that.
Honestly, I was just talking about that this morning on the drive-in with our producer. I completely remember that.
Yep. And I was bouncing questions off you, and that was, again, I mean, your opinion, even though that was the first time I met you, that was one that mattered to me. It didn't matter what an assistant football coach on the collegiate setting said to me. No, it's your decision to make. So make it with the people that matter.
That's so true. And you have to look at everybody's opinion is going to have a little bit of weight, and everybody's opinion is going to have a little bit of value, but somebody's opinion might be skewed a little bit, and they're trying to keep you. They're maybe trying to bring you in. You really got to wade through the information and find those pearls of wisdom from whoever you talk to, really.
Right. And no job, there's no such thing as like a dream job. There's no job is as good or as bad as it looks. And it's always somewhere in the middle.
That's very true.
You can always change jobs too if it doesn't work.
Yeah, I've heard that a few times in my last 26 years. Actually, I think Joel tells me that once a week. Eli, feel free, change jobs. Now that COVID's over, you can leave. That about the quote there, Joel?
Yeah, no hesitation. I got it. Yeah. Yeah, but at the end of the day, you just have to make sure you find something, whatever setting it is, that you can mentally and physically handle and take and be happy with those decisions.
Gotta make sure the good days outnumber the bad days.
Amen to that. Definitely.
Yes.
Like Brian said, you don't want those lows to be too lows and the highs not high enough.
Yeah. Otherwise, it is time to change. Now, we've all kind of mentioned briefly something about our administration. Whoa, there's a face. Administrators can actually make or break a clinical setting for us, depending on who you are directly responsible for and or responsible to. At the high school level, we end up seeing a lot of times that the athletic director or a person in charge of athletics is in charge of us as healthcare providers, which to me is kind of odd. We're fortunate where I work in that we are our own department. We made that change not too long ago. We finally were able to break away and do our Department of Health Services and Sports Medicine, and we oversee ourselves. We answer directly to our principal/president because we're a dual role center. We do all the healthcare on campus. But at the same time, most athletic trainers are that old model where you answer to an AD, which is not always medically appropriate, especially if they end up being a coach and they have a share in the game or, skin in the game, and you're holding back an athlete. Now, having said all that, and, let me get off my soapbox. Admin really can make or break a position. How do you, Julie, approach admin to make sure it goes in the right direction? And what have you seen over the years that makes a good administrator for you to work with?
I actually have a fantastic administrator. That was one of the great things about switching jobs. I am overseen, so my athletic director pretty much oversees me, but my reviews are done by my vice principal, who I see every now and then. What makes a great administrator? What would make a great administrator for an athletic trainer is if they had a medical background. I have yet to experience that. Administrators that listen, who respect our medical opinion and who hold the ground in those hard decisions, and that don't ask you how you're going to serve the coaching staffs my big argument is I'm not serving the coaching staff at a collegiate setting. I'm working with the coaching staff. I am a piece of the working puzzle. I'm not serving, because once you get that one over the other, medical decisions could not look appropriate. What else makes a great administrator? They trust what I do and actually see what I do. Over the years, I've gotten a lot of reviews, good, bad, in between, of people who never actually even see what I do on a daily basis. I think I like the administrator that when I say go is go, they back that up. And when I say no, they back that up as well.
I love the comment you made, not seeing what you do. We have a fantastic administrative staff here. Joel and I both can't complain, but we had one gentleman, the vice principal, who I interacted with daily for 2 decades, or nearly 2 decades, who had no idea what I did for 15 years until he literally fell down the stairs and ruptured a patellar tendon, and was in the sports medicine facility for treatment, rehab, and advice, even though he wouldn't listen to our advice of, you need to see a surgeon, because there's not much we can do for a ruptured tendon. And, well, are you sure it's ruptured? Yeah. See that big lump up in the thigh? Yeah, that's your tendon. I'll remember him saying to both Joel and myself, wow, I never realized what you did. So sometimes it's just getting them there. We invite people all the time. Come down and look. Your power hour. I'm going to use that. I'm going to quote you. I'm going to use that all the time. Come see us during our power
Put me on the
hour.
wall, Eli. Put
Yeah.
me on the wall.
Oh yeah, you're up there. Yeah,
Active-
actually, you still are up there.
Oh no.
Yeah, we still have a
This
picture
is
of you.
edited out.
Oh no. We still have that picture of you.
Ugh.
It was amazing to that administrator when he came in, and he was honest. He's like, I knew what you do for our boys. I'm at an all boys school, but I never knew until I witnessed it. That was a big eye opener for me after being here nearly 20 years, that this particular administrator was just learning what we truly did.
Mhm.
So
Invite them to shadow you.
yeah, definitely, any day. And Brian, I'm
fine.
sorry.
No, I agree completely. Just honest, direct communication and transparency. Whether, if you're that, we're fine. I will never base my return to play decisions on a hunch or a gut feeling. I will always have a plan. I will always present that plan, and I think, yeah, you're right. That actually every college and the high school I was at, I reported, or our department reported to an athletic director. I was fortunate in each one in that they understood what an athletic trainer did and supported our medical decisions. But that being said, that it was never based off of something subjective. It was always objective. And I can handle no. Just tell me no. Don't tell me we'll circle back to it and then you don't do it.
Oh, you gotta love that. Yeah, let's circle back later. But what do we do in the meantime?
Yeah. Tell me no, please.
And Julie, I'm sorry, I think I cut you off a second ago. Did I?
I was gonna add something in there, but I forget what it was. It's okay.
I'm sorry.
No.
That's one of my bad
This is-
habits.
Eli, this is your show. This isn't our show. You run it.
No,
You
no,
guys make it.
I just facilitate it. I just sit here and get you guys going. That's all I do. That's the fun part. What's so far your favorite memory working at a high school, or in the past, what's your favorite memory of being at a high school as an athletic trainer?
Gosh, let's see. I have a couple. I
Shoot.
always tell this story. And the story includes you, by the way.
Uh-oh.
Sorry, but not sorry. Back when you adopted your daughter, you gave me the greatest opportunity ever. So you went over to China.
Wait. Let's pause right here, because
Oh.
I know kind of the direction you're going.
Okay.
But we want to make sure, let everybody know, this was about 19 years ago.
Yeah, this was a long time ago.
Yeah, so I want
Yeah.
to preface this before I get in trouble with all my preceptor fellow.
Oh, no.
The rules were a lot different back then. So
Right. Yeah. And no,
want
and I
to
was,
make sure.
let me preface too, is there was never a time that I wasn't overseen as a student by the appropriate clinical instructors, which
Perfect.
included,
Thank you.
there
Just
was never a
covering,
time. Yeah. Thank
just
you for,
covering my backside. Okay,
no,
good.
that was going to be included in there, Eli.
Okay,
And I
thank
say
you.
that to like anybody I tell this story to, I say that as well, because as I'm talking with other athletic trainers, there was never a time like even our program director came in and oversaw me while you were
Oh,
at
that's
this.
right.
But
Oh
what
my
the
God.
explanation was you gave me the opportunity because I had been there and worked long enough to understand what you needed done to do, we were in the middle of football season, to get what needed to done on the, boots on the ground level, that of course I had somebody overseeing me appropriately. But then those people always said, well, let me know what you need. I'm here as the oversight, but I'm watching you daily and making sure I need to do what needs to get done. But it was just such a great experience to see a fantastic football team and staff welcome me in to be able to take a leadership role as an athletic trainer and have a sense of learning leadership before I stepped out into the real world, because you don't learn leadership in athletic training by a lot of the programs that we have today. You learn the basic concepts of being an athletic trainer, but who teaches us leadership? That depends on where you go, right? But it was about 2 weeks of the most eye-opening experience that it's like, okay, so this is what this entails. This is what running a program with appropriate oversight entails. So
Thank you for saying that. I appreciate
oh
it.
no, yes, it was done. I remember like we had to make everything signed up. Don't worry, it was
Yep.
you didn't just
It was
sleep.
it was 17 days.
Was it really?
You were
Wow,
on
it
your
didn't seem
own with
yeah,
oversight
with
for
oversight.
for 17 days.
Yeah.
And usually that oversight looked at you and said, okay, tell me when you need me because you're in charge.
And you know what? It was a fantastic hands-on experience, which led me to 17 plus years later to want to go back to the high school level, because I had somewhat of an understanding of what entailed. 17 days is not as long as everybody's career. Like I get that, but it was a great memory to hold on to of, yeah, someday I may want to go do that again. That's one of the greatest memories that I share at all. And it's one of my like proudest moments too. You actually get to do hands-on and be an adult in the realm for a little bit.
And you killed it, by the way. I know we talked about it a lot.
Oh, so you got the
After
check.
fact.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
I did. I did. It's cash. So it didn't bounce. You're good. But you absolutely killed it. I mean, we spoke about it after the fact. 17 days as a student in charge with little asterisk oversight. We had so many compliments about how you handled everything. And this is going back 19 years. I still vividly remember it.
Long. Yeah. Same.
So
Same. And I believe like ever since then, it was like the same time of year that there would be something coming up in my professional realm. Like Eli, how do I handle this? He goes, hey, it's that same time of year again.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
so true.
Great memories there. And I'm building them here too. There's just like that touchdown that was really fun, and the kids and stuff. So there's some good ones.
How about you, Brian?
A couple that are very similar. The first sport that I was really hands-on with at the high school level was football. And then when some of the athletes were in the recruiting aspect, the college recruiting aspect, and I remember one specifically coming to me, one football player, and asking me my opinion on certain things. And they're saying, my family's telling me one thing. Of course, I'm hearing from from different coaches and stuff like that. What kind of advice can you give me from the college level, and what are they thinking? So they kind of sought my advice from the college's side of the recruiting thing. And after they committed to their university, they'd come up, they'd shake my hand and thank me. And then it was like soon enough, the next team I was hands-on with was basketball. And then a basketball player had heard about the experience and the talks I had with the football player. So he would come to me, and then a lacrosse player. And then those conversations were great because, I always prefaced it with, I'm not your family. You're asking my honest opinion. I will give you my honest opinion. It may not necessarily be the one you want to hear, but it will be the honest opinion of where this is going or how this is trending. Man, the thank you, the handshake after their college choice was done, I'll never forget that. They were great.
Brian, you just said one of the greatest things I've heard another athletic trainer say again. I'm not your family. And what I also say too is like, I'm not your coach and I'm not your teacher.
Yep.
I'm an athletic trainer. We are just this awesome little piece.
Yep.
So that's really reaffirming for me to hear you say that as well.
Yeah, as an athletic trainer, we walk a very strange little line in
Mhm.
between family, friend, teacher, educator,
That line is
administrator.
constantly wavering too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that line is not a straight line. Boy, that curves left and right, up, down, sideways.
Brian, would you agree, coming from college to high school, that you're bringing experience and knowledge to them to make them more prepared for that next level? Is that something that you've seen and you valued as well?
Yeah, and I think it took a little while for them to realize that, though. You are part of the recruiting aspect on college. You do see what the college coaches are looking for. You've been part of medical disqualification from the college standpoint. So you're sort of a crystal ball for them. And it took a while for them to realize that. And at first, they might not necessarily want the truth or believe what you're saying is true, but then when they realize that it is, they really appreciate it, and they use you as a resource for that.
That's great. That's awesome.
Now, you're not going to believe this, but we've already been talking for almost an hour.
Oh wow.
It goes by real fast, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does.
That's part of the fun of this.
Yeah.
It's really, for me, it's fun to just get together with people I know, either personally, professionally, and just discuss our field of athletic training, sports medicine, what we do, and the joy that it brings to us, whether it's using, as Brian just said, a crystal ball to help them understand what's potentially in their future if they go a certain direction. But what I notice is we've made lifelong friends with these young men, young women who end up becoming better adults because we've interacted with them. And
Mhm.
it's very gratifying when they come
Like Julie
back.
said, we're a piece of that puzzle that works with them.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, and I don't think any athletic trainer should minimize the potential impact that they have on someone's life, and it's not just from an injury evaluation, rehabilitation standpoint. But
Yeah.
100% agree.
Those young men, young women that come to us, they're someone's baby, and we have an impact.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That
Mhm.
value piece, I think, like to build off of what Brian said, like we athletic trainers need to understand and appreciate our own value as well of what we bring to it.
Amen to that. I keep
Yeah.
saying amen. It's like I work at a private Catholic school or something. Jeez. Sorry about that, everybody. Well, we've kept you far too long at this point. I don't want to take up too much of your day. You have given us a great insight into the transition from college to high school, and let's say the step up to the high school setting. I really appreciate both of you as professionals, as colleagues, but as friends, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for
Yeah.
your insight.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
might
this
be, it was so much fun. We might be calling you back for another episode.
Ooh.
Sounds great. Sounds great. Anytime.
Yeah. Yep.
Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.
Absolutely.
Thanks. See you guys.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Want to make sure you hear every episode? Remember to like, follow, and subscribe to our podcast. Don't forget to share our podcast with your colleagues, family, and friends. Your support will help more people find and enjoy our content. Wrap It Up Sports Medicine and More is directed by Eli Hallak. It is produced by Gabriel Hallak. Our theme music is by Coma Studios via Pixabay. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are solely those of the contributors. Want to know more about us? Visit us at wrapituppodcast.com. That's with one P, wrapituppodcast.com. Wrap It Up Sports Medicine and More is a production of Hallak Consulting, LLC.